Welcome to the Train of Thought podcast. My name is Logan DeCamp. I am a personal trainer and nutrition coach.
And I'm Chloe DeCamp, and I'm a certified athletic trainer.
And in this recording, we're going to be talking about a lot of great stuff about the human body. And what we're going to be talking about is how your body will either lose it or use it. And a big principle that we talk about is age is not always the problem. It's because you stop training it. So we're going to be talking about why that is, and we're going to talk about soreness, how to listen to your body, and a bunch of other fun stuff. So this will be a recording you will want to save, because if you have been off from the gym for a while, or you've been inconsistent and you're worried about getting back into the gym and getting hurt and soreness, this is the episode for you, because we're going to be talking about all that and more. So make sure you click the save wherever you are, share it with a friend, and let's dive in.
Yeah,
let's do it.
You first.
All right. So we have been hosting something. Well, hold on real quick before I start. I forget to do this, and I just want to make sure that I say I do have a stutter. So if you hear me take a longer than pause than normal, or I stumble on a word, I'm still trying to learn how to talk. So please bear with me there. But to really kind of put things in perspective, in September of last year, we started doing a movement workshop twice a month here in Lehi, Utah. And I wanted to start it to really teach people the foundation of how to move better pain-free. And a big thing we talk about a lot in our program is age is not the problem for your lack of movement restrictions. Yes, there's things like acute injuries and chronic pain and things like that that can affect, your movement. But if you stop training it, then your body loses the ability to do it. And to give you a good example to help put this in perspective, we all know of the person that they make like a wrong move to catch the milk falling out of the car, right? Like they bend over, like the milk falls out of the car, like some weird example like that. Or like you're at home in the kitchen, the cup falls off the counter, you twist your body, and then all of a sudden you throw your back out. And then we blame age for that problem. But the problem is we didn't move with the purpose, and you are not intentionally moving through these different planes of motion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a fine line between them too. Injuries happen all the time, every day, and I see that all the time, especially in the clinic, that things like that can happen and you get injured and there's no rhyme or reason. But for the most part, yeah, things can be preventable. With kind of freak weird things like that, maybe not as much, but like if you're going and playing pickleball and you haven't done that before, and you go and pivot and twist like you were to go and grab like a milk jug or something that fell, and doing those motions similarly, I guess, you can get hurt because you're just not, aren't well adapted to be able to do those motions, and you haven't been training that way, like you said.
Yeah, and like, of course, we're not going to be able to completely reduce the risk to none in terms of getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's still going to be, unfortunately, a one-off example. Or, you make a athletic move playing a sport, and you might hurt yourself. Like that definitely
that's most
happens.
common.
That's really common. But whenever we speak about the general population, like for example, they'll go out and like they'll run, and they ran 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But just because they ran 10 years ago does not mean that they can run now. And then all of a sudden they come back from that run and they tweak their calf, they sprain the ankle, something like that, right? So like that's what I'm talking about more specifically.
Totally.
And we're going to kind of teach you in this recording today how to gradually get back into it, so that way we can help you reduce your risk of getting hurt. And then we're going to walk you through like you're definitely going to be sore. Like as soon as you get back into that, you're going to be sore from that first weightlifting session or that first run, or I'm not sure what specifically the activity is, but we're going to help walk through that soreness, and we're going to kind of teach you how to listen to your body as well too. So I think it would help if we maybe give the audience kind of like why this is going on. Like, why does the body use it or lose it? And I have some notes here, and this is just from what I've learned. Again, things are always changing, but from my research and my knowledge and understanding and being able to work with people these past 4 years, it all comes down to the SAID principle. And the SAID principle is it's a specific adaptations to imposed demands. Now, I don't expect you to remember that whole long saying. It's a really, really long saying, but what I do expect you to remember is the following. The SAID principle is a very fancy word that means your body will adapt to the intensity that's placed upon it. So, for example, if you do a strength training workout, over time, if you consistently go to the gym, your body will adapt to that stressor. That's why changing the variables like the sets, the reps, the tempo, the time under tension, all that stuff is important to change the intensity that the body is placed upon.
Yeah.
But if you stop going to the gym, if you stop running, if you stop doing activity, then your body will use that energy for some other function in your body, and it will lose that adaptation that it had to that intensity, because your body is always trying to be as efficient as possible. Your body has one goal, and that's survive and stay alive, right?
Yeah.
So that is, in a nutshell, why your body will either use it or lose it is because of the adaptations that your body is being placed upon.
Yeah, totally. That's really good way of putting it. Yeah, it's more like we're evolution based creatures, I feel like, which is a weird way of saying it, but like we're always looking for ways to improve, and if we're not giving ourselves opportunity to do that physically, we're just gonna waste away, basically, or not, really be able to do what we want to do because we're not really training to do those things. And you can even correlate it to just day-to-day things. Like, for example, I went on 2 hikes this weekend. I haven't been hiking all summer, and that was hard, and I for sure am sore and I'm tired. I'm like, why did I do that to myself? But if I had been, go to the gym and things, and so it was slightly easier because of that. But if I had taken the whole summer to be able to train by doing smaller hikes, working up to the harder hikes, I probably could have done something a lot harder, like Temp or something, which is a very tall mountain, right? In Utah. And so remembering that we can push ourselves and use our bodies to adapt over time can be really great. But if we don't do that, then what are we left with?
And just for context, Temp is like a 15-mile hike, so it's a very, very long hike. It's a very, very long hike. And you hit on a very important point that I want to kind of touch on as well too, because there's a lot of people that are listening in that, like, they might have friends or something. They're like, "Hey, let's go do this workout together," and their friend might push them really, really hard.
Yeah.
Or, there might be a friend to go like on a hike with. So there's going to be people, or maybe like you're the type of person that you have this very go get it type of mindset. Just like you're going to just go do it, and you might overdo it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately going to happen. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
And you got to live your life. But...
Right. And I think, that can kind of lead into, okay, if somebody does overdo it, what are they going to expect, and what is going to be the consequence potentially of that?
Yeah.
Is an important question.
My answer?
Well, I know you have some notes regarding DOMS, in which, and to be more specific, DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness, which typically comes about a day or two post activity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot here that we're going to speak upon, but I don't want to steal the light
No,
from
you're
Chloe.
good.
So
You're
go
good.
ahead.
No. I think it correlates to what we've been talking about because a lot of the times we'll go do those things, go do those exercises because we're like, oh yeah, I haven't ran in like 10 years, but I used to. So let me just go do that. Like, let me go crank out a few miles. And then your body hurts after because we just haven't trained like that. And so now what do? We sit around until we're not sore anymore. And then what? You don't really want to do it anymore because the DOMs took it away, right? And this can happen with anything. Like if we're, hiking somewhere, whatever. Like if you're visiting somewhere for vacation or whatever, and you go on a long hike or you're walking in Italy, who knows? You could get DOMs, and it's real. I've suffered from it. It's definitely real, and it is hard, like to get back into things after you've had DOMs. It's real. But I kind of looked through some articles on it because I wanted to sound like I know what I'm talking about. And so a few of them, we'll link them down below. I'm not quoting them super directly, but they have some really great details on that. And so, DOMS is real. It can range from muscle tenderness to severe, debilitating pain. And they don't fully understand what DOMS exactly is, and we can get into the pathophysiology of it all, but I'll just kind of touch on it really quick. It's usually after we do eccentric loading of our muscles is when it really kicks in. So sometimes downhill hiking or running, any kind of eccentric loading from the gym, which we do all the time.
And to be more specific, when you say eccentric, that is the negative portion of so for example, going downhill, and if you're lifting weights, that's the weight is being lowered. Things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. And so I just assume everybody knows everything. Sorry. But we aren't fully aware of there's a ton of theories of why the DOMS happen. So lactic acid buildup, which has been kind of widely said that's not the case. That
what
only
is that?
happens.
Lactic acid buildup?
If you want me to go into it, I can. But essentially, lactic acid builds up when our muscles don't have enough oxygen, and it's an alternative route for glycolysis, so making energy. And that's the simplest way that I could probably explain it.
So it's the burning sensation you get whenever you work out. So you're like, why is my bicep feel like it's on fire? It's that lactic acid.
It's that burny feeling. Yeah. And with over, lots of research and things, it's been shown to be very short term what that feels like. So a lot of people will be like, I'm so sore, it's all that lactic acid buildup, I gotta pump that out by doing this and that. Technically that's not really the case, according to these articles and things and research. And so that tends to be actually a short-term thing. It reduces back to normal levels after a certain amount of time. I don't know exactly the time, I'd have to look, but it is listed in those articles, so if you really want to know, they're there. And then other things it could be is muscle spasm, inflammatory response, muscle damage, cartilage damage, or connective tissue, not cartilage, connective tissue damage. It could be something to do with really deep fascia, which I'm starting to get a little crazy into the details, but when we think about deep fascia, all of our muscles are enveloped in this connective tissue. And there's an article that I attached, which was really interesting, saying that it may not be actually the muscles that are kind of causing this soreness. It may actually be that connective tissue that's enwrapped around those muscles because they move when we move, and the more stress and tension you put on it, it might be causing the pain. So kind of interesting. Might want to look into that if you're really nerdy and want to look into it. But we want to kind of touch on, there's DOMS and it's a real thing, and it's being researched. We don't know exactly the details, but what do we do with it? When we're super sore, what are we going to do? Are we going to go back into the gym the next day and just grind out another leg day? Some people might, and I don't know why they would.
Those people need meds, by the way.
That's rough. Yeah, that's crazy. Which, I mean, I can't knock it because I did do a leg day on Friday and then went and hiked 5 miles. And then I hiked a lot more today. So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite there. That's on me. But what can we do? If we go back too soon after experiencing DOMS, we can have reduced range of motion, start compensating with other muscles, and then that can lead to injury. So kind of similar things where we're pushing ourselves too hard because we thought that we could handle it. And now what are we stuck with?
Okay.
Injury.
Yeah, there's a lot there that I want to touch on. And I think I just want to go all the way back to the beginning here. So you mentioned there's a less severe and a really, really severe DOMS.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to help give the people some context. So just not to make people feel overwhelmed. DOMS.
I'm sorry, I went crazy on that detailing.
No, it's okay. This is why you're here. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you have a lot of knowledge around this stuff. So DOMS is essentially you got sore from working out.
Right.
Like we did. So for example, let's say we were in the gym working together and we did squats. And you did 4 sets of 15. And then tomorrow you can't sit down on the toilet because your butt hurts. Well, that means we probably overdid it a little bit too much because which is the point that I'm trying to make here is if you have severe soreness to the point that it impacts your ability to go about your life the next day, which means being able to sit down on the toilet, being able to, grab something out of the top shelf of the cabinet,
walk like a normal person.
If you can't do those things, then you're pushing too hard.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly important, especially if you're somebody that has been inconsistent in the gym and you've taken time off. And it doesn't even have to be the gym. It could be doing sports, running, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If you are so sore the next day to the point you can't move, you overdid it.
Yeah. What's the point of doing the exercise if you just push yourself so hard? And it's normal, like you said, it ranges. So yes, it's gonna be sore when you first start, but that's why we scale back. Don't ego lift and think you can push really crazy weight or push really hard with going on a full mile run, no stops. You're gonna hurt and you know that you're gonna hurt, but we still do it. So maybe there's some psychological things behind that.
I have a theory. Well, it might just be a personal theory because I've found, especially for me, I talk a lot about in our program, the fastest way to decrease your confidence is break promises that you keep to yourself. So not being able to keep those promises you make to yourself. And if somebody made a promise to themselves that they're going to go, do this workout or something like that, they keep that promise, but maybe they push a little bit too hard. And it's kind of just like a confidence, ego driven thing.
Yeah.
Cause I've been running on this 8-week program now cause I'm prepping for a 5K race. Cause I haven't ran in a decade, but anyways, I found recently the past couple weeks, because running is so new, I don't know how to back off. And Sunday was the first day that I finally learned how to back off a little bit, right? Yeah. So I think it's important if maybe we give the audience maybe some context of how do you even know to back off? What does that even look like? And how exactly to walk through this a little bit more.
Totally. I think the biggest thing is what we came back to is you probably... if it's interfering with your daily activities, you kind of messed up already, and it is what it is, and you're going to have to just kind of, what can we do with that DOMS? What can we do to feel better and get back a little bit faster? And there's tons of modalities and things that we can use, like cryotherapy, foam rolling, stretching, anti-inflammatories, things like that, to just try and reduce the pain that's associated with it. And all of those measures, not necessarily saying that we solved your DOMS. You may still be sore after trying all those things. It just may actually make you feel better one way or another. So research is still kind of out on whether or not the cryotherapy really works or whatever, but you may psychologically and, maybe a little bit physically feel better from those things. But how do we know that what do we do now,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely a question I want to address as well too, because, there might be some people that are listening in well, I already have DOMs. I'm already
Yeah.
sore. Like, what do I do now? And
Yeah.
let's maybe address that first, and
Yeah.
then we'll go back and we'll talk about kind of being able to plan for it, so that way you don't get to this point. So you mentioned some things like stretching, like cryotherapy, and just kind of some other methods and some modalities. I'm definitely a big believer in being able to move with the purpose is something we talk about a lot.
Right.
But I think it's important that not to overdo it, right? Like, for example, if you every 60 minutes you intentionally stretch your left quad every 60 minutes, and you do that for 10 minutes every 60 minutes, and I had a client that actually did that, and it ended up hurting his hip. So I think it's important to understand that, like, hey, if you have pain on a certain area, that doesn't mean just attack it every hour on the hour, because it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about, and maybe you can provide some insight as well too, is like just some nice dynamic movement, I'm assuming.
Active recovery type stuff.
Yeah. And then some light stretching. It doesn't have to be like this crazy intense, we're trying to improve range of motion.
Yeah.
Like, if it's sore, I kind of think about it as, and maybe this is the wrong analogy here, but I kind of think about it as it's like a scab, and we don't necessarily want to pick that scab.
Yeah. No.
Right. So if like we're like intentionally stretching the scab, essentially, then we're going to pick that scab, and then it's never going to heal.
Yeah.
So it's important that we're like lightly kind of addressing it,
Yeah.
giving it attention. Maybe this is a weird analogy, but maybe you lightly stretching it is putting like, what do they do to get rid of scabs? Like, you putting ointment on it or whatever, they get rid of it.
Something like that.
I just like to give analogies and a picture so people to kind of understand.
Yeah, exactly. And like, aggressive stretching can really lead to more pain and more issues. And so, that can happen with a lot of people if they overstretch their calf and then pop. Now you got a strained calf or something crazy, right? And so you do have to be really careful with that. One of these articles, it does talk about how exercise is actually more effective at alleviating pain from DOMs than like those other things like the stretching, cryotherapy. So actual movement, like you're saying, like movement with a purpose. It's not just like a sit and reach stretch. Like, it feels probably nice on your hammies, but it's not really doing much, especially if you're not actually stretching for longer than like 30 seconds. That's my other thing. Effective exercise can be a little bit temporary from, doing that. And so that article said it encouraged reduced intensity and duration of exercise 1 to 2 days after you get DOMs, and target other muscle groups less affected and progress over time is the biggest thing they said is, okay, you overdid it now, decrease what you did, and then progress back up, because it goes right back to that SAID principle. Like, if we progressively overload over time, we'll get to that point where we can run the mile, we can push that weight. But if we're not, we're not going to do that right off the bat. And so a lot of people have the expectations for themselves that they're going to just go full out right away. And we need to kind of scale it back a little bit. And if we do go full out, then you reduce your intensity, go a little bit lower in terms of duration. You don't have to be in the gym for an hour plus stretching and things. You can do smaller workouts. You can do other groups. That's kind of, I think, why the whole idea of doing leg day versus then arms and, and I push pull, whatever. I think that's the concept behind that, right? Because if you're super sore in one area and you give it a rest for a few days, do a different area.
Yeah.
It touches on that. It's not the full reason, but something to think about.
Yeah. There's a few things I want to say there. So just to go back to give context, progressive overload is changing the demands that is placed upon your body gradually over time to help you adapt to the stressors that are placed upon it. Yeah. So for example, if we're working out together, we're not going to change the variables every single week, but on a progressive overload strength training program, your first month, we might be doing time under tension. And then the second month, we might be doing more reps with less rest, right? And we're just changing the variables in that progressive overload.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing I want to mention on is, so as you were talking, I talked a little bit ago about how and why sometimes people often overdo it, right? And my theory was it kind of comes back to confidence and they have like a go-getter mindset. And I think another thing as well too is people don't know what normal is, and also it's very, very hard for people to take care of themselves because a lot of people, they get into running, weight training and all these things because they don't like how their body looks. That's often a huge driver of it.
Yeah.
So as a result, going to the gym and running, it's just punishment, and it's just punish myself and go hard.
Totally.
So, which is a whole other conversation of coming from self-hate to self-love, which is something we talk about in our program. And yes, guys, that does apply to you as well too. It's if
not more sometimes.
If not more, correct. Yes. Cause I'm definitely guilty of that from sometimes in regards to I push myself sometimes too hard. But another thing I want to say there, and I don't want to kind of get down a rabbit hole and talk about this, cause this could be a whole other podcast that we could talk about, but upper, lower, full body splits, all these different workout style frequency in the gym, they all have value, but I think what's more important is what are you going to be the most consistent with?
Yeah, definitely. I was just mentioning that in terms of, okay, here's an option in terms of, okay, you did leg day and you went a little too hard, especially when we're starting a new program or something like that, or new thing. Obviously listen to whatever coach you have, and hopefully it's Coach Logan. But, you know what I mean? Like, it's an option for people to, okay, I'm not going to hit leg day 3 times this week because I overdid it on Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's definitely value
But
there.
I agree with you.
And there's probably like a 30-minute conversation that I could have there, but I don't want to get too far off on a tangent. So maybe that is another podcast recording we do. But okay, so we kind of give people some context of what DOMS is and how to work through it in the present. Like yesterday you pushed too hard, you were extremely sore today. And by the way, DOMS normally shows up on the second day the worst. Yeah. So you might have done a workout on Monday, and Tuesday you might be walking around feeling great. But on Wednesday, at the time of this recording that drops every single week, you might be like, man, why am I feeling so dang sore from that workout on Monday? Well, DOMS has a funny thing of showing up 2 days after, and it sounds like you have something you want to say about that.
No, it's just I'm gonna be hurting on Wednesday, it looks like. But like that's another element, like going back to that, exercise can help a little bit with relieving it. If I'm just gonna sit around in an office all day, the day after I do that leg day or something, I go back to leg day because I'm thinking about how bad my legs hurt right now already. So whatever. But now I lost my train of thought.
It's funny, this podcast is called Train of Thought, and we're losing our train of thoughts around here. It's okay.
You go.
Okay.
I don't remember what I was saying. I'm saying something good, probably.
It's also been a long.
I got it.
Hold on, real quick. It's been a long day for her.
I'm gonna lose it.
Oh, okay. I'll tell her in a minute. Go ahead.
So, dang it. No, so like moving around more during the day. Because if I'm going to go sit in an office during Tuesday and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to be like, ooh, my quads are really feeling it now. My hips are a little tight. Then the next day, forget about it. Like it's going to hurt. Like, especially, so if I'm moving a little bit more with purpose during the day, trying to take more laps around the office or going on a walk midday, or at the end of the day, go on a walk or something that's low impact, nothing too strenuous, then I might feel better maybe in the next 2 days. Maybe I can combat a little bit of the DOMS, but
being able to plan ahead. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to that self-hate versus self-love principle. Yeah. Just generally speaking, because a lot of people, they are driven by self-hate because they don't like the way their health is, their body, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So they look at running, weightlifting, sports, all these ways of burn calories and punish my body and do all these things, but it's going to come back to that self-love principle,
Sure.
which kind of leads me to my second point that I kind of want to talk about is how can we plan ahead, especially if you've taken time off from activity and it's been a while since you've done running, weight training, or whatever it might be. And this applies to the mom that just had a baby that is postpartum. You cannot go right back into working out. You need to work on your pelvic floor and get your core stronger. This applies to the average gym goer that they strained their bicep and they took 2 to 4 weeks off from the gym.
Yeah.
We need to ease back into it. This also applies if you have a acute injury, like you tore your bicep or something, and it's been several months off. We need to slowly, gradually get back into it and listen to your body. But there's this big buzz in the fitness industry, and from my knowledge and understanding, it's still going around. You'll see nutrition coaches and personal trainers like, hey, when it comes to being able to lose fat, just listen to your body. If you just listen to your body around food, then you'll know how much to eat. And the problem is there's no context around it.
Yeah.
It's
How do
kind
you do
of
that?
it's kind of like, hey, why don't we just let's just get in the car and let's just drive. Let's just drive. There's no destination. There's no roadmap. We're just driving. I mean, we don't have all the money in the world for gas like that.
Yeah.
And plus, we don't know where the hell we're going. So there needs to be context. There needs to be roadmap around what does listening to your body actually look like.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that takes time. I mean, there's kind of many different ways that we can approach this, especially from a nutritional standpoint, which is a whole different conversation. But for the context of this podcast, I think it would be important to address how to listen to your body from a activity standpoint. And it's all going to come back to identifying what normal feels like to you, because it's not normal to have back pain every day. It's not normal to have brain fog every day. It's not normal to have inflammation every day, right? It's not normal to have what we often deem as normal. And I think it's going to be important to first start there. And then if it helps, I'll kind of give some personal examples of kind of what listening to my body looks like around activity as well too. So that way you have some ideas to go off as well. Is there anything that you'd like to say there?
No, keep going.
Before I keep going?
No, keep going.
Okay. So that's going to be really important too. So one thing I would recommend is I'm a big believer in pen and paper because we live in a day and age where we just have our phones, but I'm not sure the exact psychological benefit to it, but some studies have shown that pen and paper is just a different psychological benefit. So one thing I would recommend is jotting down everything you deem to be normal, like your lower back pain, your bicep pain, your toe pain. I don't know what you have, but jot down everything you deem as normal, and then go to a functional medicine practitioner, go to a personal trainer that has been working locally in your space for some years, and ask them, hey, are these things normal? And that's going to be able to help you give context to whether or not that is normal. And then we can start to really be in tune and listening to your body once we can really identify what normal is. Now, from there, the next step that I would suggest, so for me personally, for those that have been working out consistently in the gym, or maybe years ago, you might kind of like have a train of thought of what it feels like to work out. You know kind of how your body is supposed to feel. And what I mean by that, and I'll give you a personal example. So for example, for me, if I do 225-pound deadlifts, on a good week, when I'm feeling really well that specific day, it moves pretty quick. It moves really, really well. But on days that I'm not feeling well and I maybe didn't sleep well, I didn't eat enough the following day, or maybe I had a drink or two the night before, I pick up 225 pounds off the floor. It feels a lot more than it did any other week. So that means that my body's a little more fatigued that day. I also notice when I'm working out, if I need to scale back intensity, my heart rate is a little bit up. Like I can feel like I'm sweating a little bit more. I have, maybe it's a little extreme, but I have a Whoop on my right arm and then a watch on my left, so I can track
crazy.
my heart rate as well too. So I can tell like, oh, when I did this movement last week, my heart rate was not nearly as high. Maybe my body is a little more fatigued and it's telling me that I need to slow down.
Yep.
Also, I'll do a warm up, and on good days, my body feels great after a warm up. But if I didn't sleep well, or maybe I pushed hard on a workout the following day and I warm up, my body might feel achy, a little bit sore still. And that's a good reminder to me that like, maybe I need to slow down and not push as hard. So hopefully that kind of gives some context and kind of a roadmap of how to listen to your body. But the biggest thing I'm going to suggest is to write out that list of what you deem as normal and go to somebody in your local area, or heck, reach out to us and let us walk you through and tell you what is normal, what is not normal, so we can start working towards normal. So that way, you know how to be more in tune with your body.
Yeah, I think another element you didn't touch on as much in like, sleep and how much you've, ate, whatever, things like that are important, but also like your mental health. If you're not fully there with you on the workout, like if you don't really feel like doing it, I know that mental is, so varied, and we could really get into that. And it's like, sometimes you have bad mental health days, but you still should move your body. But there's, things that we need to do to be able to pay attention to that. And I think like, for me, I tend to focus on that more, on how I need to scale back and scale forward. And just something to touch on, and maybe we can talk more about what mental health looks like in the gym, because some people, push it, and then, that ends up making it harder on themselves, I think, because they just weren't fully ready mentally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's
a lot to that, but I think you have to be in tune with your mental health as well as your physical health, where you're at nutritionally, how much sleep you got. Those are all, it's mind-body connection there. And if you're lacking in one of those areas, you can see it and you can feel it in those workouts. If I'm not fully there, I'm probably not lifting heavy.
Yeah.
Kind of like the same way as you could be physically. You'd be like, oh, I'm here for it, but physically I'm not there.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And there's a couple of things that I want to just add to there. So if you slept 5 hours last night and you ate twice yesterday, don't push it hard in the gym.
Yeah. And you're going to get DOMS.
And you might pass out, honestly. But regardless, if you slept less than 6 hours, you probably shouldn't push it hard in the gym. There's a lot of scientific data that shows that just even one poor night of sleep can significantly decrease your strength, power, output, and just a lot of other negative snowball effects from just one poor night of sleep. So I definitely thank you for bringing that up. That's really, really important as well too. And also from a nutritional standpoint, if you work out at 3 and all you've eaten is a banana and a protein bar, you probably shouldn't push hard.
Yeah.
Because you haven't ate anything that day.
Exactly. And that's just a reminder that it's not to say just don't go to the gym because you haven't done those things. Because now we're going to get just right back into the perpetual loop of this, where you're, all right, I'm off the gym this day because I didn't eat very much that night. I didn't sleep very well. You got to really like...
Yes.
Which we can talk about this forever.
Which is the second point. Sorry, go ahead.
My other point is that something. It was something. It was there.
You're losing your train of thought today a lot, honey.
Yeah. Well, are we surprised by that? That happens way too much. You fall into the same loop of, okay, well, I'm not gonna go to the gym now because I don't feel 100% or at least enough ready to be able to push it. You can still move your body with a purpose that day, whether that be a yoga, a walk, a yoga session,
a yoga
yoga session, or a walk or a bike ride. Move your body regardless, but maybe you don't push it like crazy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, so thank you. I'm so glad you touched on this, because there's a couple of things I want to say here. We are not, and especially for the men that are listening in, because the men are probably thinking, you're just telling these people to give them an excuse not to work out. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, and what we're talking about, is you have to listen to your body in order to progressively get better. Because if you push it so hard to the point you can't recover, then all you're doing is breaking your body down, and you're never recovering, building muscle, losing body fat, and getting better and being able to work toward your goals.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me into my next point. One thing we talk a lot about at Champ Camp is, what is your plan B, your plan C, your plan D, your plan E, and your plan F? Because we all have a plan A, but when plan A falls through, we don't do anything. So for example, right now, your plan for tomorrow is to go and do that really intense workout. But let's say you're maybe a busy parent and the kids didn't sleep well, or maybe you pushed hard during a workout, or maybe you pushed hard during a workout earlier this morning. Whatever it might be, you wake up tomorrow and you've listened to this podcast and you realize that you can't push as hard during that workout, because you're going to just break your body down and you're not going to recover.
You're going to get DOMS.
So my question is, what is your plan B?
Yeah.
Your plan C, because your plan B might fall through as well too. And to really, really drive this home, a quote that changed my life and our client's life is, all or nothing rarely gets you all. Usually it gets you nothing. So instead, always something. So always something. So for example, we're not telling you not go work out. We're telling you to do something. And that something might mean, instead of a hard workout, you do yoga, because you're coming from a place of self-love versus self-hate.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was good.
Okay.
I mean, I got nothing else to say.
Mic drop. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Okay.
Anywho, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Please be sure to drop a comment if you're on YouTube, Spotify. I still don't know if you can comment or not. So like it, share it, whatever.
Message
us at
Logan.
Champ Camp. Our email at logan@champ-camp.com, because we want to hear from you. Our goal is we want to do topics, but I also would love if you could message us a question, and we could fire off a couple at the end and talk about it as well too, because we're here to help you in your fitness journey and to be able to help you enhance your health and longevity. So
definitely. And we go on a lot of tangents, and so if anything doesn't make sense, you let us know.
Yeah. We're open to all feedback here.
It's really possible.
I don't know. I feel like this has been good today.
Yeah.
I've had lots of fun. So anywho, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.